Hello. So today I wanted to go over 3 different pens from Hongdian, and I just wanted to review its pros and cons because I've had these two for about a week now, and this one I've had for quite a long time, probably about almost a year already. And this pen, which is the Hongdian N11, and don't mind the inky fingers, I'm going to tell you exactly why I have these a little bit later, but this pen kind of started me off on my Hongdian journey. I had other fountain pens prior to this one, and originally I was going to get the one that kind of looked like the Visconti Divina with the whirl-like pattern, the swirling pattern that kind of looks like a candy cane. However, I ended up going with this one because the Divina is on my wish list, so I don't want a repeat of a pen, so I think I will get the Divina eventually. So this pen is really awesome, and that's kind of why I got the other ones as well. So very quick, I'm just going to start off with a writing sample between the three. All three have fine nibs, and I believe they're all marketed with an ebonite feed. So as you can see, this one has a black colored nib. It's a fine, and it has this feed that looks like this, which is different from a feed that looks like these ones. So I bought some medium-sized nibs that are supposed to fit these pens, just not this one because this one is a piston filler, but this one is a cartridge converter. And so these ones have feeds that look like this. So different, as you can see. They're not like rounded at the top here, and they're just like plastic feeds. And the reason why I have these ink-stained fingers is because I like medium nibs and up. So I prefer broads and double broads. So these fine nibs just really weren't doing it for me. So I was like, you know what? I'll just buy a couple of these medium nibs. So I thought that I could just interchange this into here. However, this feed isn't, the channel isn't wide enough that shimmer inks can go through very easily. So it actually clogs up really quick, and the performance just wasn't as good. And yes, I could just deepen the feed with a razor blade and etc. But I really liked the fact that this one had this feed over here that kept the writing really, really wet. So I tried to put this nib onto this feed in this like section. However, it didn't work out. There was a gap between the feed and the nib, and no matter how much I tried to heat set it, it just wasn't closing together properly, because as you can see, there's like no gap right here. Before there was a gap, so it kind of looked like if my nib was here, and then there's the tip, and then this is sort of how your feed's supposed to look like, right? But instead, mine didn't look like that when I put it with, so this is the fine nib that it originally came in. The one with the medium looked like this. So as you can see, there was this issue over here. And this gap made it such that the capillary action couldn't work properly. So unfortunately, I just kind of had to retire that idea and go back to the fine, because I had tried it in boiling water, I tried really pressing, I tried all kinds of things with the medium nib, but it just wasn't conforming to, well, not the nib, but the feed wasn't conforming to the nib. And I've done the same thing with plastic feeds actually, which I know they can't be like heat set, quote unquote, but they work sometimes similarly as well, where they can get flexible enough that you can force them into a different shape. But I wasn't getting that effect here, so I just wasn't able to do that. But I still really liked this F nib, which is why I ended up getting all these other pens. So it's not all bad. All right. So I guess we can start with a writing sample. So let's just do a new page. Or actually, let's do the back of the page. Let's not waste paper. So, writing sample. Hongdian writing sample. All right. So let's bring it down a little bit. So the first one we have is the N11 in a fine nib. And it is a really great pen. I really like this one. You can see it is a cartridge converter fillet. I have Bathurst Blue Denim by Ferris Wheel Press in here right now. And even its converter has the branding on it, which is quite interesting. The one thing about this pen is if you're like really picky, you'll notice that there's a small gap between this part, the body of the pen, and the grip section area, right? Just a little bit of a gap in here. So I hope you guys can see that fine gap here. And it's kind of annoying when you look at it and a bit sharp when you run your fingers through it. But most of the time, I don't like to change my grip as I write. So when I actually write, it's not going to be a problem. And you can also see that there's a little bit of bounce on the nib, right? So let's see how wet it is. Decently wet. So next we have the A6, and I've been having some issues with this pen actually, but let's do the writing sample first. This is also in a fine. It is a little bit more scratchy than my N11, and I chalk that up honestly just to QC problems. And the reason why I say this is because other than it being a piston filler, and this is a wetter ink that's in here. I believe I have the Jacques Urbain Grisonnage in here. But this is sort of what it looks like. It has the same sort of feed and everything. Yeah, so for all intents and purposes, it should perform basically extremely similar, if not the same as the N11, but it doesn't. It is a little bit scratchy, but the big problem with this pen actually is that it breaks really easily. So if you've seen my previous video, I said that I broke it within 5 minutes of getting it because I like manhandled the piston filling mechanism. That's on me, right? Totally accept that. However, I brought this pen home from work the other day, and this part was like stuck on the body. The cap was like hard. It was so difficult to unscrew. It got to a point where actually this skeleton body started moving. Do you see that? It can move, and the pen isn't moving. So that basically means that as this moves and this is pushing on it, it can end up agitating the piston section and turning that as well. And when that turns, that means all the liquid here, all your ink is going to get pushed up to the top. It's going to squirt through your nib, and then it's going to be all in your cap, which is exactly what happened to me this morning. So I've been using it for a little bit, and I've just been finding more and more things about this pen that are like really, really annoying me. These are things that I guess, you know, it's a cheap pen, sort of what do you expect? But at the same time, I have a lot of other cheap pens that are well within this range that don't behave like that, right? Like these are all pens within that $35, $45 range. And if we think about things like the Diplomat Magnum, for example, doesn't have this issue. If we think about the Pilot Metro, which is a all-metal pen, doesn't have this issue. So yeah. And even if we think about things like the lower end Conklins or the Monteverdes, right? They have other issues, sure, but they don't have ones like this. In addition to that, this body actually clicks. So I hope you guys can hear that. It's basically this section that is not attached or glued down to any other part, and it just moves. Hits the top here, to the grip section, and then also hits the back section, the little finial thing that's attached to the piston. So I've also had to put silicone grease here and here, which is kind of annoying because it makes the grip even more slippery. But I did that so that when I tighten it, it'll always be rather easy to open instead of being stuck on like how it was this morning. Which is a shame because it's such a pretty pen, right? And then next we have the 1866 Max. So that has never happened to me before. I think that was just, maybe I didn't touch the paper properly just now. So similar to the one above, but again, a little bit more scratchy than the N11. I don't know. I believe it is Rome is Burning. Oh no, this is Kiyoiro's Stone Road of Gion. That's in here, right? It is a very similar color to Rome is Burning though, just without that purpley tinge. So I don't really have anything to say about this one other than this section is very rough, and it's not rough because of these rigid like grooves that they've put in to the pen. It's actually rough because they didn't finish it. So if you touch it, it feels like wood that hasn't been treated after, and there's a little bit of like ridges and grooves between the actual grooves that have been pressed or dug out into the wood of this pen. What I might do after is I might actually sand this down, polish it, or apply a treatment on top. I'm not quite sure what I'll do there. But overall, given these 3 different pens, I definitely say that my number 1 is this one, which is great, the N11. I will actually continue to buy Hongdians even after these 2 experiences here, just because this one is really, really decent. You can see I've used it quite a bit. There's some dinged up marks here. The silver body is actually showing through past the paint job on this pen. And it's just a shame that they don't offer replacement nibs that have the same feed, and I wasn't able to heat set the feed back onto the nib or to press it and like bend it in some way so that it wouldn't have this issue over here. Next up, it's kind of difficult. I don't know if I would choose this one because I love the way it looks. And it also writes slightly better than this one over here. But because of the problems that it's given me today, I really can't, right? Like that would be unreasonable behavior. So I would put this one as 2, the 1866 Max, and then I would give this one 3rd today, even though this one actually writes better than the one over here. And in terms of weight, this is definitely the lightest. This is a really easy pen to use. I highly recommend this one. These 2, this one is heavier, but most of it is in the cap. And then this one is pretty heavy too, but again, most of it is in the cap. Once it's off, it's, I would say, comparable probably. Oh, not at all. No, this is still a lot lighter, so it's way better for longer writing sessions than this one. This one still has a bit of weight to it. All right, so that's my mini review of these 3 pens, and I hope you enjoy.